How do you think about disruption? I mean, everywhere I turn, I'm reading, this is disrupting, that's disrupting. Do you worry about disruptors? Kind of what would put you out of business? Or who? So how do you think about that whole aspect about your industry as a CEO?
Yeah, I mean, we think about it a lot, I guess. If we kind of reflect back on our history, we were the disruptor for a while, you know, and we, to be honest, and I was younger, we probably weren't mature enough to know exactly, understand the context of what we were doing. You know, so, you know, we were actually a disruptor, and we were a consolidator buying up things, and we were changing basically addressing solution compromises. You know, I always like that term. It's like, what are people dealing with right now that's just really annoying? They don't even think of it, but if you can, it's a compromise to the solution. If you can overcome the compromise, then you just are successful. You don't have to sell it, it's just obvious. And we identified a few of those. People had to go to multiple information services to get information. You went here for your books, here for your journals, here for this, here for that, and then tie it together. We put them all together on one platform. It's like not rocket science, but that was a disruptor. And so a lot of those companies that were individual companies in those areas, they aren't around anymore. And so now, it's interesting, back to like the Zuckerberg comment, but some of these people that made a lot of money, they come in, they have good motivations, they want to make significant changes, they could disrupt us. So one of our biggest fears, and it has been since the early days, I always worried about Bill Gates saying, you know, just go lose a couple billion and just take over the library market. You know, you worry about that with Google, you worry about with others. The reality is the library market is what it is. It's although we're a pretty big company, it's small in the scheme of things, and it's really demanding because librarians are very specific in their needs. And so I don't think the big companies really want to come after us, but the reality is a lot of times people disrupt, the disruptors disrupt without trying to. You know what I mean? They just you're in their way.
Exactly.
And so we worry about it a lot, and we're trying to get back to being a disruptor as opposed to being a candidate to be disrupted.
Building on that, so I've kind of adopted this kind of approach. It was a book called Dual Transformation, and was what I found about 4 or 5 months into being CEO was that the amount of changes that I wanted to drive in the organization was at risk of crumbling the core, right? And I obviously didn't want to do that. So I'm kind of on this dual path. So we have a tremendous amount of kind of change and progress underway within JFF. And then in February of this year, I got board approval to create a new nonprofit called JFF Labs. And so the idea is that we are repositioning the core while we're building the new. And it's a wholly owned nonprofit subsidiary. And the goal is for that organization to not only provide different types of services to new types of customers, but also kind of building a team that has complementary skill sets to what we have within JFF. So for example, we will be running acceleration cohorts with mission-aligned startups that are working in the education workforce space, for example. And we'll be using JFF's networks and our programmatic expertise in order to mentor those companies. But we're bringing in folks from kind of the entrepreneurial, like investor ecosystem to perform those tasks and then bridging back to JFF. Similarly, as we have started kind of the partnering with the disruptors, so we are starting to work directly with folks like Google and Amazon and Salesforce, which is really exciting, but also realizing that over time we need to kind of build a new kind of corporate interface layer, because I think kind of the academic research mindset that we have within the organization, which is terrific, aren't exactly the folks that we necessarily want to be in the best place to interact with some of the new corporate clients. So how do we build a team that can kind of serve both functions? And then, just really being mindful of continually ratcheting or kind of the change, the pull between the traditional and the new and the internal and the external, and kind of keeping pace with that. And Jim and I spent a lot of time kind of thinking through how to keep adjusting that mix. But I think that it's really trying to tether ourselves pretty far out in terms of where we want to go, and being bold in those statements, and getting the feedback kind of from the market that they love kind of the, old traditional JFF really, driving forward has been really encouraging.
I've always prided myself on being a responsible disruptor. So being typically the one disrupting is a better position I've found to be in than having to respond to the disruptors. I think the big difference, though, is the responsible side of it. I mean, anyone can be a disruptor. The question is are you disrupting for a reason, and is it sustainable and actually going to have longevity to it? So I think one thing we help our clients with a lot, it's always ironic to me, the ones that want to disrupt are in many cases the ones that have no right to disrupt or nothing to back it up. They are almost getting desperate to do something to make noise or get publicity or do whatever. And in many cases, the ones that have a legitimate reason to disrupt are too timid to do it. And so we have to constantly try to push our clients to consider breaking the mold, leading, not following, doing things a little bit differently, whether it be in their business model, whether it be in their positioning and packaging, whether it be in their go-to-market strategy. And so I think disruptors are great, but I think there's a big difference between the players and the posers. So you got to figure out who's who.
Need help leading organizational transformation? Let's begin a conversation.